Hey mama, welcome to Mindful Moments for Moms. I'm Jessica and I'm here to help you find some peace in the chaos of motherhood. In this series, we'll dive into quick, practical tips on mindfulness and emotional regulation, not just for you, but for your kids too. We'll talk real-life strategies to manage stress, stay grounded, and teach your little ones how to regulate their emotions along the way. No fluff, no BS, just real support for moms. So take a deep breath. You've got this. Let's dive in. Hi, mamas, and welcome back to The Peaceful Mama, your go-to spot for all things support when it comes to the mom journey. No fluff, no BS, just real support for moms. So, self-compassion. What is it? Why do we need it? So, as a mom, we all struggle with feeling overly critical of ourselves, and I am absolutely no exception to that rule. I am always feeling like I'm not doing enough, I'm not good enough, and so recently I got a new job. I was working from home, and I had a lot of flexibility, so I was able to do additional things throughout my day, which meant that I actually did have more time to spend with my daughter when she was actually, here after a full day of daycare. I recently got a new job, and that's all changed. I'm out of the house really early in the morning, and I don't get to pick her up until about 5 o'clock. So, yeah, I'm self-critical a lot. So, in today's episode, we're going to talk about what it means to be kind to yourself, why it's so hard for us moms to actually do that, and what are some easy ways to start incorporating self-compassion into your daily routine that isn't going to take up extra time. So, what is self-compassion? The definition of self-compassion is treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you'd offer a friend. I've seen it a lot of times where people say, if you wouldn't say that to your best friend, why would you say it to yourself? And it's the same concept. We also have a lot of struggle around this as moms. And there's a couple of reasons. First of all, is that pressure to be perfect. And we can blame social media for that. We have a lot of the Instagram moms with their Stanleys and their Lululemon outfits and all this other stuff. And most of us are just kind of sitting here with day-old hair and a stain that we're really not sure where it came from on our clothes. And we see this stuff on Facebook and on Instagram, and it's kind of off-putting. And it makes us feel bad about ourselves. And then there's the endless task list that we have. And it makes it hard to prioritize ourselves. And I'll give you a perfect example. The past few days, I have had a raging sinus headache. And my husband asked me the other day, have you taken anything for it? And I said, of course, no, I haven't. And he looks at me and he goes, why not? And I said, because, honey, out of all the other things I have to do, including shopping, like grocery shopping, making sure Mia's like set and ready to go in the mornings, doing all sorts of other things, working full time, going here, going there, I just fall down to the bottom of the list. He didn't really have much to say about that. But I'm sure most of you out there are at least nodding along to that story and saying, yeah, that's totally me. So what's the problem with that? When you're constantly beating yourself up, it's almost impossible to manage your emotions well, to do a good job doing that. But when you're kinder to you, to yourself, you can give yourself some more room to breathe and make better choices in tough moments. So, self-compassion actually affects our brains in a couple of different ways, and I'm going to tell you how. First of all, self-compassion leads to lower levels of anxiety and depression. It's that stress hormone cortisol that kind of is responsible for all that. It increases, so it lowers that cortisol. It increases oxytocin, which is that feel-good hormone, that hormone that you get when you hug your best friend or you hug your child or are really proud of something that happened and you have that feel-good hormone. It also helps to regulate your own emotions and reduces your feelings of overwhelm and feeling burned out. So research has shown that self-compassion leads to lower levels of anxiety and depression. In fact, some studies have found that self-compassionate people are more resilient in the face of failure. So as moms, we face setbacks on a daily basis. We're not always going to get it right, but having self-compassion allows us to bounce back a little bit faster. Some common myths and challenges about self-compassion. Why does this feel so hard? One common myth is that self-compassion is inherently selfish or indulgent. I think this is completely wrong because it's essential that we are our best selves for ourselves and for our families. If we're not at our best self, we can't take care of anyone else. Another common myth is that it takes a ton of time and it takes one more thing to add to our ever-growing list of stuff to do. And let me remind you that self-compassion is not a thing you do. It's a way you look at basically life. It's a mindset shift, right? So all you have to do is shift your mindset a little bit. I'm not asking you to add extra things to your plate. Just change the way you think about what you already have. So, why are we the hardest on ourselves? Personally, I think it's a character flaw. No. It's part of the job description sometimes, but we do have that massive pressure to kind of do it all, that social pressure. And sometimes it's social pressure, sometimes it's societal pressure. We have to have the good job, the corner office. We have to be making the 6 figures, have the good car, have all this other stuff. And we have to have our kids, right? I've often heard people say that we as moms in the United States are expected to parent like we don't have a job and to work like we don't have kids, which is not a thing that can happen in 24 hours. We all have the same 24 hours. We also have that big fear of being judged. Maybe it's by friends who mean well. Maybe it's by family members who think they know better. It's just that stranger in the store when your kid is having a tantrum and you're convinced that everyone's staring at you. We all have that fear of being judged. And the well-intentioned desire to be the perfect mom for their kids. So, what are some simple ways to practice self-compassion on a daily basis? I'm going to give you some practical tips and examples, and I want you to start small. Okay? So, number 1, take a self-compassion break. In a tough moment, pause and say to yourself, this is a tough moment, but I'm doing my best. I deserve kindness too. That's it. This is a tough moment, but I'm doing my best. I deserve kindness too. That actually happened to me the other day. My daughter's been having some issues with bedtime. She's going to be 3 in December. So it's a combination of serious FOMO, separation anxiety, and wanting to do everything herself. So bedtime is hard. We were in the middle of a particularly difficult bedtime, and I just had to stop and say to myself, I'm doing the best I can, and that's good enough right now. The next technique that I have for you is to practice some self-talk. Practice some positive self-talk. Excuse me. When that inner critic pops up, ask yourself, Would I talk to my best friend like this? If not, adjust your tone, right? I said that in the beginning. Self-compassion is talking to yourself the same way you talk to your best friend, right? If you wouldn't say it to your best friend, don't say it to yourself. Number 3, instead of focusing on what you didn't do, remind yourself of all the things you did accomplish today, even if it seems really, really small and insignificant. With all of the other stuff that you have going on, Mom, it's not insignificant if you manage to get up, get dressed, and brush your teeth. That is not insignificant. Lastly, spend 1 minute, just 1 minute a day, acknowledging how you're feeling without judging those feelings. That last part is really hard to do. We're perfectly capable of saying, I feel frustrated with my child and I feel like an ass for that. That's that last part of that. I feel like, because that's that judgment piece. Breathe through those feelings. Remind yourself that it's okay to not have it all figured out. I'm sure that when you guys you all had your first kid, and probably the next ones after that, people loved to tell you, kids don't come with a manual. No, Karen, they don't. And that's why we're not always going to get it right. And that's okay. Remember, do the best you can and let go of the rest. Self-compassion isn't about being perfect. It's about being kind to yourself on the journey. You can't pour from an empty cup, so fill yours with some love today. Start small. Take just 1 moment a day. Start today. Check in with yourself and offer a little kindness. Progress over perfection, always. So sometime this week, I'd love for you to try one of these tips and leave me a comment on YouTube. Tell me how it went. Share your experience. You can also DM me on Instagram